Okay.
Three, two, one. We are live for a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintraub. Tell me how you're doing, Seth.
I'm good.
Oh, that's good to hear. Um, this episode of Electric Podcast is sponsored by All Set Auto, North America's leader in paint protection and restyling, offering colored wraps, paint protection, window tint, ceramic coating, and more, exclusively for electric vehicles too. We're gonna have a little bit more to say about them, about their business model later on the show, so stay tuned for that. But thanks for All Set for sponsoring this week's episode of the Electric Podcast. An episode that's gonna be a bit lighter. Like the last week was crazy. Like it went an hour and a half because we had a ton of news, especially from the Tesla earnings. As you can see from the show notes here, if you're watching on YouTube or whatever app, a lot less news this week, which is going to give us more time to get into the questions and answers section of the podcast. So I'm going to remind you a little bit later on, but for people that are already trickling in right now, if you have question for us, either about either of the topics that you see right now on the screen, or you know any other topics in the EV world or renewable energy world, we're gonna have sometimes you can ask a question in the comment section, and we're gonna have some time to talk about it later on the show. All right, one of the main thing. Well, we are the 1st of November, and that means that new month, a new self-driving roadmap update. Tesla has been, a little bit more consistent in giving us, an idea of what they are working on when it comes to the FSD program, full self-driving, supervised and hopefully unsupervised by Q2 2025. Um, so the first roadmap was released in September, and it did mention goals for September, goals from October, and a little bit of goals like for 2025 without as clear of a timeline. At the end of September, Tesla already a bit of eroded its own roadmap and that to track progress because they claim to have completed all their September goals, even though the biggest one by far was V12.5 achieving a 3x or roughly 3x, like the actual quote as the little wiggly thing. How do you call that thing? Do you know that?
Tilda.
Say that again?
Tilda.
Oh, really? Improvement miles between necessary interventions. So this necessary intervention thing is a term that people you know uh, have some issues with because it's a little bit subjective, but it's intervention that if the driver doesn't intervene, like the system would have failed. Like you needed to intervene. It's not like oh, it's not being aggressive enough. I'm gonna press on the accelerator a little bit, or I'm gonna initiate a lane change because I don't want to be in the left lane, whatever. And there was zero evidence whatsoever that 12.5 FSD 12.5 brought a 3x improvement in necessary management intervention. Actually, the only data that we have, which is the crowdsourced data, over 40,000 miles now on V12.5, all the version of V12.5 combined, shows a degradation in miles between critical disengagement from that's the overall mile, yeah, 196 miles on 12.3. We skipped 12.4 because Tesla didn't wide release 12.4. So 12.3 is the last one that we have, decent amount of data on it. Down to 143 for 12.5. So where is that 3x? Unless you go back to like 1010, FSD 1010, then you can maybe claim close to 3x because it went from 58 to 143. But it's a wild thing to say. Anyway, so already the roadmap is like, huh. And also, if you're using the metric of miles between necessary intervention, then release your actual data on miles between necessary intervention. And Tesla refused to do that, which again is why no one can give us any crap for using the crowdsourced data because it is the best available data we have. Now, in that original timeline, the roadmap for AI, Tesla had two goals for October. One was unpark, park, reverse in FSD, and V13 with roughly 6x improvement in miles between necessary intervention. Those two things have been linked together. Like V13 is supposed to include unpark, park, and reverse. Now, Tesla has released an update to its roadmap and what it claims to have done in October instead of on park reverse and V13, which have not been released. They said that they've done end-to-end highway on around 50,000 customer vehicle with the V12.5.6.1. I say dot a lot on the show. Cybertruck build that improved responsiveness, quite vague, and successful re-robot events. Like successful, okay, depending on what kind of perspective. So these things, Cybertruck FSD was supposed to be released September. It was kind of leaked into October. End-to-end highway was supposed to come also in October, and now it only reached 50,000 vehicles. So it's not. For those who don't know, end-to-end highway it's the neural net from input to output in the car to be completely handled by neural net rather than hard-coded things by programmers. So now it's kind of bleeding to November, at least that's what it knows, because the update. So now Tesla said that the end-to-end is coming, full rollout for end-to-end highway driving to all AI4 user, which are hardware 4, targeted for early next week, including enhancement in stop smoothness. That's going to be welcome. Less annoying bad weather notification and other safety improvements. For hardware 3 owners, Tesla only says improved 12.5.x, so whatever that's going to be, models for AI3 safety driving. So, and that's like the only thing in the entire release that Tesla mentioned about hardware 3 is that we are going to get new version of 12.5. There's no mention of V13 coming. There's no mention of end-to-end for highway coming because they cannot fit that on that computer, which is pretty wild. So now going forward, other than in the next week or so, hardware 4 owner is gonna get end-to-end on the highway. It's not clear the timeline for hardware 3 though. That improved 12.5. Actual smart summons should be released in Europe, China, and other regions of the world. Again, without any other timeline. Nothing too exciting on that front end. Then Tesla kind of give a little bit more detail on V13. And it says 36 hertz full resolution AI4 video output. I can basically remove AI4 because everything is on AI4 this thing. So it's again native AI4 input in neural network architecture. 3x model size scaling, 3x model context length scaling, 4.2x data scaling, 5x training compute scaling thanks to Cortex, which is the new supercomputer cluster that Tesla installed at Tesla Gigafactory, Texas. Much improved reward prediction for collision avoidance following traffic controls, navigation, etc. Efficient representation of maps and navigation inputs. Audio inputs for better handling of emergency vehicles. For some reason, I thought that was already in. Makes a lot of sense, too. Redesigned controller for smoother, more accurate tracking. Integrated on-park reverse park capabilities, which was the thing that was supposed to come. It is last month now, October, with V13. This is the main thing. This is the big one that's going to reduce a lot of disengagement because it's more like it's the feature complete that I've been calling. Well, a whole term that Elon used to use. Mm-hmm. Support for destination option, including pullover, parking, and spot driver garage. Okay, this thing I kind of put it with the park on park, but anyway. Improve camera cleaning and handling of camera occlusion. I'm not sure what that means because Tesla doesn't have active cleaning on cameras other than the front-facing cameras with the wiper. So Tesla adds to that, we have integrated several of these improvements already, and we are already seeing. I assume they mean internally here, with the internal test fleet. They are already seeing a 4x increase in mile between necessary intervention compared to 12.5.4, the latest wide release. This in itself is interesting because Tesla is talking about a 4x. Of course, they say they didn't integrate everything. They integrate several of these improvements, which I assume park on park is in there because it was supposed to be in there last month. Tesla went from claiming on the original AI roadmap a 6x improvement in miles between necessary disengagement. And then last week, Elon on the earnings kind of tempered that a little bit by saying 5 or 6x improvement. And now they talk about a 4x improvement. Again, they haven't wide released it yet, but still. Then Tesla adds about the timeline on this V13. This lays the foundation for V13 series, so V13 dot whatever, and we are targeting to ship V13.0 to internal customers by the end of this week, so internal fleet. Most of the remaining items are independently validated and will be integrated over November in a series of point release. We are targeting a wide release with V13.3, with most of the above improvement for hardware for vehicles around Thanksgiving. So now V13 has been delayed basically a full month in terms of wide release, because it's going to come at the end of this month, the end of November. So yeah, there's not a lot of things super exciting about this update. It's basically, the way I've been looking at FSD lately, other than hardware 3, I think Tesla is like kidding anyone thinking that this thing is ever going to happen on hardware 3. But let's focus on hardware 4 just for the sake of it. Is that if I see any chance that Tesla can deliver unsupervised self-driving next year, or let's say next year just to be kind, because they actually say Q2, which I think is even crazier. But next year, I need to see like a very fast pace of improvement in miles between disengagement. And we were supposed to see a 5-6x with V13, which would have brought us to the 600 to 800 miles between disengagement range, which I thought was very possible with this on-park thing. This is gonna eliminate a lot of like necessary but somewhat trivial disengagement. But we need to see that pace quick, very quick. And we're already seeing a month delay on the first big one, the first big leap forward. And it might not, like I might sound picky, like, oh, it's just a month, whatever. A month on an 8-month timeline, let's give it a year timeline just to be generous. It's huge. It's a 12th of it, quite literally. I don't know if you saw the drama that followed this release yesterday, or that was maybe 2 days ago that was released, but that happened yesterday. There was some drama that happened because Ashok, the head of FSD at Tesla, now a VP at Tesla, one of the top guy under Musk, retweeted the timeline, the roadmap, the roadmap update, and then he said, I probably need to find the, I posted it on my Twitter, on my X. Let me find it real quick just to make sure I'm not misquoting him, because a lot of people got confused by it, and it created a lot of confusion. There it is. So Ashok said, lots of work, but the team's aiming to get to feature complete for unsupervised FSD with the V13 series. And then a bunch of people, especially like a bunch of Tesla all-ins, like you're not seeing this, I can actually share my screen here. A bunch of Tesla all-ins share that and like, oh, FSD V13 is unsupervised. Like this is gonna be the launch of unsupervised V13. The feature complete is the key word here, and I've said that last week about V13. I see V13 as what Elon claimed would be feature complete, which he claimed was gonna happen in 2020. So let's not get too excited here. It's the ability of FSD to drive from point A to point B, and to from park to park, from unparking to parking, without unsupervised. He should have removed the unsupervised of this, like the complete for unsupervised FSD. It means like without any driver input, you're gonna be able to be feature complete, which is fair. Again, it's a fair statement. I think it's poorly phrased, but it is. I mean, the amount of people that just went crazy with that and just ran with it was nuts. But I think it's pretty clear. But it is interesting too that like we are like 4 years later, Elon has stopped using the word feature complete. Though he did respond to that tweet by Ashok and like saying that the rate of progress was amazing and blah blah blah. But yeah, this is feature complete kind of was phased out as a term for Tesla for FSD. now it's making a comeback 4 years later because Tesla is actually on the verge of achieving feature complete, which, if Tesla wasn't selling the product and everything, I think would be celebrated as an achievement. But now it's more being laughed at by anyone who's not, a Tesla all-in.
Is that a new term? Tesla all-ins?
Yeah, because I started using it more because like every time on X, someone's like attacks me rather than the argument I'm making. I always like just hover over their profile real quick, and every time I see Tesla all in their or TSLA, like the Tesla stock sign, all in their offer. So I'm just calling them like Tesla all ins.
But that's not that's not the all-in podcast, though, is it?
Oh no, I didn't make any reference to
Oh,
that. Like no, I think like the a group that called themselves the Rebellionaires. I don't know if you ran into them.
nope.
They're kind of like shadowy a little bit. Like I don't know exactly what the group, like if it's an actual company or if it's just like people like they do pay the $1,000 a month like to be like a group on X,
Hmm.
and then they give the badge to a bunch of people that in their tagline is like how to help Tesla all-ins like protect their investment and things like that. Like so they give some kind of investment advice about especially options. I think how to maybe edge your Tesla all-in bet against option. I've never investigated them that much, but so it's a term that they also use. So I'm not saying I invented the term, but it's not, you cannot say that it's a pejorative term. Like it's not.
No.
They are all in Tesla, but for the people who know, it's like okay. All right. Still on the Tesla FSD subject, just one more post on this. After that, we're gonna move on for FSD for people that don't like to talk about it. But unfortunately, it has become kind of my job, FSD, because my job, I'm on the Tesla beat. I cover Tesla. On Electrek, we cover more than Tesla, obviously, and thank God. But since I'm on the Tesla beat, and Elon has shifted Tesla towards AI and self-driving, it's unfortunately most of the thing I have to write about is that. But I'm not the only one. I don't know if you saw this report set, but Business Insider had a very interesting report this week on what they call Project Rodeo. It's a team within Tesla of test drivers. So we reported over the last 2 years that Tesla, you could argue that Tesla customers are FSD test drivers, and I think they are.
Yep.
But Tesla also has an internal team that does test driving, and we reported over the last 2 years they've been expanding that team a lot. It's just people that they get into Tesla vehicle and they have an 8-hour shift and they drive for 8 hours with FSD. And Business Insider managed to interview 9 people that was on this team over the period of a few months. And they specifically interview people that was on the Project Radio's critical intervention team. And the goal of that team is basically to push the FSD to its limits and to, for the most part, unless there's an accident, about to happen, you just let it do its thing. So if you and me said we try FSD and we see a stop coming, and we see that the FSD is not slowing down at all, and we might give it, see if maybe it's gonna stop, it's gonna start braking, start slowing down a little bit later, maybe. But as soon as we get uncomfortable with it, and we're like, we're gonna slam the brakes and we're gonna do it, like we're gonna stop before the stop sign.
Yeah, and then we'll probably give up on it for a couple hours.
Yeah. Then we do disconnect, and sometimes I'll give it another shot right away, but most of the time I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll just get the rest of my drive myself this time. But these guys their job is to just let it ride, basically, which is nuts. I mean, I'm not gonna go through all of the example. It's a long article and there's a bunch of examples, but let's see if I can find a good one here. But yeah, this is a good quote from one of the drivers. You're pretty much running on adrenaline the entire 8-hour shift. There's this feeling that you're on the edge of something going seriously wrong. Oh yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, and the rodeo team obviously is because like you're on a bull. Like it's the idea of being on the bull, and like the bull is trying to shake you out, and you have to stay on it. Like that's the idea behind the team. But like this other test driver says, I vividly remember this guy jumping off his bike. He said, right before this saying that, he said that he FSD like was gonna crash into him, and he stopped within a few feet of him. And he said, I vividly remember this guy jumping off his bike. He was terrified. The car lunged at him, and all I could do was stomp on the brakes. And then when he reported this incident as part of his job, he was told by the team, he told me that was perfect. That was exactly what they wanted me to do. Like, they almost ran over a cyclist. It's like, good job. Well, you didn't run him over.
You didn't run him over.
Yeah. And to be fair, off of the 9 people that were interviewed by Business Insider, none of them reported being involved in an accident. They all reported being involved in very sketchy, near miss accident, but none of them were involved in an accident. But again, there's probably hundreds of those drivers. They interviewed 9 of them. So, sorry, I don't know. And and to give a comparison, Waymo, who's also developing full self-driving technology, does have a team similar to Tesla's critical intervention rodeo team, but the big difference is that they do the testing in closed environment with dummies. So they don't do that on public roads with, completely innocent bystanders that don't even know they are part of a test. Like the cyclist didn't sign up to be part of Tesla's test. He's not getting paid like the guy that's in the car that's also like risking his safety to a certain degree. Yeah, I think this is I understand it. I understand it, and Tesla also has a simulation team, and they also do closed track tests and all that, but they feel like nothing is as real as the real world, which is correct. It's the correct logic, but does it justify doing that? I think from an ethical standpoint, from a safety standpoint, and Elon always like to say Tesla is always safety first and all that, but this doesn't sound like safety first to me. And I know devil's advocate's gonna say, yeah, but you're developing a technology that's gonna save like tens of thousands of lives every year. It makes sense to put some life at risk to get there. I don't know. I don't. It seems like not ethical to me.
I wonder if they can test, like, if they put like heart rate equipment on these drivers to see like what what kind of mental stress they're going through when they're doing this.
FSD is more stressful than
for sure.
FSD. Yeah,
but to quantify that would be interesting to find out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they were talking about things like going specifically like in streets where there's a lot of bars at closing time to be around like drunk people and making sure that the car reacts well to drunk people. Things like that, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can also, if you're really, Tesla is investing billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars into FSD. Invest in, go rent out the Warner Brothers studio again and, hire a couple of extras and, pay them extras because safety is a little bit higher risk than on a Hollywood studio film. But, and create scenarios and do that because it just doesn't feel ethical. All right, positive Tesla article from Fran Lambert. They still exist. They still exist, people. This is the proof right there. Tesla launches the new Powerwall 3 expansion unit that slashed installation times. Yeah, we reported on that a few months ago. If you remember, said it's pretty cool, but it's finally launched now. It's finally happening. So it's enabled by the Powerwall 3 basically. So the Powerwall 3's big update is power capacity. It's 11.5 kilowatts of continuous power capacity, basically twice what it was before. And now it's enough to be good on its own because a lot of people don't know this, but the limiting factor for Powerwall installation has often been the power capacity and not the energy capacity. A lot of people can do a lot with 13.5 kilowatt hours, especially if you're more concerned about short time power outage rather than longer time. So a lot of Powerwall installation, I think a majority of Powerwall installation were more than one Powerwalls, but because of both, because of the energy and the power, but mainly because of power. So now it enables Tesla to do a single Powerwall installation with Powerwall 3 with that power capacity, which is 11.5 kilowatt continuous. And Elon Musk claimed that it's 30 kilowatt peak. I haven't seen that in any official documents from Tesla. It's just Elon saying that. So, considering what Elon says on a day-to-day basis, take it with a grain of salt. But now what it enables too is that since you have that much power capacity in one Powerwall, and if you need more energy capacity, you can have a Powerwall without the inverter that is cheaper and connect it to a Powerwall 3 that has the inverter, a regular Powerwall 3, and then you get a cheaper installation that most likely match your power needs, and can increase your energy needs. So they call this a Powerwall 3 expansion pack. And now we have the detail. This was from a report from April. Like you have like the little schema, the little diagram of the installation. But what Tesla did, they confirmed that you can add to 3 extension units to a single Powerwall, so 4 total, but 3 expansion unit, 1 Powerwall 3, and reduce installation time, extend outage protection because of the energy capacity, increase electricity bill saving, obviously. And they released this cool video here, the sound, where you have a multi Powerwall 3 installation on the left, which is regular Powerwall installation, and then on the right you have one that's mounted with the expansion pack and one that is ground mounted with the expansion pack, and you can see the difference here. 45 minutes for the regular one, the regular installation. 28 minutes for the one mounted with expansion unit, and 22 minutes with the expansion unit if it's ground mounted. So you can literally slash the installation time in half, and the installation time is a big part of the cost of a Powerwall installation delivered to the customer. So it's a big deal. Over Tesla says that he can deliver 700,000 installations, 700,000 Powerwalls per year now. So it can be in the hundreds of thousands of installations per year. This is going to save a lot of time, a lot of money. Good stuff.
Yeah, and I guess it's probably easier to install as well. Not just takes less time. Maybe more electricians can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's smaller, it's lighter. It's cheaper itself too, I should say. I kind of skipped that, but it's $1,000 cheaper than the $9,000 Powerwall. So because you don't have the inverter in it. So
right.
Before that, you had to basically daisy chain a bunch of Powerwall 2, or 3, because also the units is new, and then you have, in terms of the Powerwall 3, you'd have too much power, more power than you need, and internal Powerwall 2, you'd have your power, but then you probably had too much at some point and too much energy too. So it's a more flexible, better solution. Whoever was behind this at Tesla, kudos. All right, this was an interesting one that came earlier this week. Tesla released a rare blog post. They are quite rare these days from Tesla, and it was an interesting one because it's basically a kind of a reset of the NACS opening Tesla's connector from a few years ago. This time, Tesla is trying to standardize auto connectivity, which sounds very similar to the NACS, but it's not the connectivity from a charger, but from the connectors inside the vehicle. More specifically, Tesla is trying to standardize connectors inside the vehicle to enable a 48-volt architecture like the Cybertruck, which is a hybrid of a 48-volt system, but a good step in that direction. And but at the same time, they're trying to just standardize the connectors. So Tesla, I'm gonna quote Tesla here: to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, we are simplifying the manufacturing process and electrical connectivity requirement for all our vehicles. This includes the implementation of our low voltage connector standard, which they are abbreviating to LVCS, which allows us to reduce the large number of connector types required to just 6. These 6 connectors are designed to meet the power and signal requirements of over 90% of typical electrical device application. This standardization unlocks further operational efficiencies, cost reduction, and manufacturing automation. So these are the 6 connectors Tesla is talking about here, if you're watching on YouTube. So pretty cool. They look like kind of like futuristic guns or something. And then Tesla introduced the idea of using that to upgrade the automotive connection, automatic electronic architecture to 48 volt. LVCS expands upon the same 48 volt electronic architecture used for Cybertruck. It needs a requirement for increased spacing for 48-volt operation and is available in industry standard light blue. The 48-volt architecture is the optimal long-term solution, requiring a fourth of the current to deliver the same amount of power. Designed to enable reliable autonomous vehicle, it utilizes robust single-wire sealing and independent secondary locking mechanism while minimizing the package size. Makes sense. Makes sense to me. It's a little bit above my pay grade to know just how good those connectors are, obviously, but I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know how long. I mean, they haven't been in service for that long. We don't know how they'll
I'm
hold
not, I'm
up.
not even sure those are really the ones in the Cybertruck, because the Cybertruck is kind of what people are calling like a hybrid 48-volt architecture, because they couldn't make the jump completely, which is fair. Like, it's hard to just
Right.
change that from one day to another, and you probably need the support from a lot of suppliers in the industry to do something like that. So I think that's what they're doing right now. They're just probing to see how much support they get from the industry for this. My main concern is I'm not when Tesla first opened up the NACS standard, I didn't think it was going to happen, because I thought it was like a little bit too late.
Yep.
And then they made it happen thanks to Ford and GM getting on board quickly and all that. But not so quickly, but getting the ball rolling, really. The thing, though, is that happened because Tesla was dangling the supercharger carrot in front of the whole thing. They was using is it a carrot, like, oh, you want that carrot? Why am I pronouncing carrot so weird? Anyway, so that was super useful. Like, people are like, yeah, I mean, our charging network sucks. Tesla's charging network is great. We could easily implement it by just adapting NACS. Let's just adopt NACS. Like, that was like a very easy solution. Here, obviously, I think if you can achieve a connector standard in the industry, there's going to be huge cost saving for everyone involved. But do they really want to get into that and make that transition happen, which is probably going to take years, if not decades, without this, with just this idea that the entire industry is going to improve? Like, that would be good, obviously, but a lot of companies, they don't think like that. They think about competitive advantage before like improving the entire industry. Not all of them, but like obviously a lot of people. So yeah, I wish them great luck, because I think that would be a good thing, but I don't know if it's gonna happen, to be honest. I said the same thing about NACS too, so take it with a grain of salt. All right, should we talk a little bit about our friends at All Set Auto, the leaders in paint protection for EVs?
All right. Today's episode is brought to you by All Set Auto. All Set Auto is North America's leader in paint protection and restyling services, offering colored wraps, paint protection film, window tint, ceramic coatings, and more, exclusively on EVs. In fact, they've worked on over 7,000 electric vehicles, including having already wrapped over 300 Cybertrucks in colored PPF. The company currently offers the largest selection of colored PPF in the industry, with more than 25,000 options in gloss, matte, metallic, and even color shifting. All Set Auto currently operates in 15 markets across the US and Canada, and is seeking to award new franchise opportunities to qualified candidates who are passionate about the EV industry. To find a location near you, or to get their free digital franchising brochure and market analysis, visit allsetauto.com. That's Tesla backwards, ALSET auto.com. All Set Auto, we don't protect cars, we protect EVs.
Awesome. Thanks you to All Set for sponsoring this week's episode of the Electrek Podcast. I saw that they also like the top installer for like the official OEMs film protection for Rivians, because Rivians has it's not, I guess it's not a factory, but it's like you can buy them directly from them. All Set installs it.
Nice.
All right, we're going to jump into non-Tesla news now. But before we do, a quick reminder that if you enjoy the Electrek Podcast, we would appreciate if you click that like button real quick, that thumbs up, whatever it is on the app you're watching, because we're live everywhere. And if you do enjoy the show, you can also subscribe and hit the notification button because that will tell you when we go live, even though we're pretty consistent on Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're listening on your podcast app right now, I would appreciate if you can give us a 5-star rating, only if you mean it, of course. That helps the show a ton. It's free to do, takes a second, and we do appreciate it. So thank you very much. And then we have a few more news articles to get into, and then we're going to jump into the comment section. It looks like we already have a bunch of comments, but we're going to have time for a few more. So if you have questions for us, you can put them in the comment section right now. A little update on the Lucid Gravity. It's set to begin orders next week, so in the next few days. And they sort of gave us an idea of pricing, or at least they told us that there's going to be 2 trims that are going to be available to order next week, and one of them is going to start right below $80,000 so that you can take advantage of the federal tax credit in the US. So yeah, it was kind of light on details. Obviously, I think the big announcement is going to be next week. Lucid share. Okay, initial pricing of the Gravity orders will include touring and grand touring trim, so similar naming scheme as the Air. Price at $79,900 and $94,900. Oh, that's quite the jump. That's quite the jump. The Grand Touring will begin production later this year, followed by a Touring in late 2025. Okay, so if you want the Touring one at $80,000 to get access to the tax credit, it's going to be in 2025. Though at the same time, we had the end of the year anyway, and it's going to be late 2025, I should say. We had the end of the year, but the Grand Touring is going to start production sooner. They promised on the Grand Touring they're going to have over 440 miles of range, which is very impressive for an electric SUV. Similar battery that it's in the Grand Touring here. So similar, not the same. Over 300 kilowatt charging, 200 miles in 12 minutes, which is awesome. And order will begin next week. You have a priority if you already have an Air, and it's going to start at 9 a.m. Pacific time on November 7th. So we're going to report back on that next week. But we wish good luck to Lucid because they really need the Gravity to keep things going in the US, and we would like them to succeed because they apparently make some great cars. I haven't tested them recently. I know you have, but you have like the more earliest version of them that had still a lot of bugs and whatnot, right?
I've not done a long-term test. I've driven in one, but Scooter, I think, did the drive up the shore one.
Yeah, they were supposed to give me a new one, a new Air. I mean, since August they've been saying that, but apparently they have one coming in Montreal, and I should be able to test it for a week. So I'm looking forward to that. I actually saw my my first Lucid in Quebec this week.
Really?
Yeah, in Saint Bruno. Oh, I should talk about that too because a few people on the podcast reached out to me this week about what happened with my Model 3. So I guess I'm gonna do that at the end of the show. All right, this is not so good news. Ford is going to be shutting down the F-150 Lightning production for close to 2 months, and it's apparently because of demand. So the demand is not as high as they would want it to be. And we had the Ford spokesperson confirm to us that, let me see the exact timing. I think it starts on November 15. But technically, November 18 is going to be the first day down, because they don't actually work on the weekend on the F-150 Lightning. They already reduced. We reported on that before, but they reduced the shifts at the shifts of their work crew or both. I'm not exactly sure to produce the F-150 Lightning. And now they're going to pause completely production from November 18th to January 6th, I think. Oh, that's kind of a touchy day.
I know I live in a East Coast bubble, but I see more Lightnings than I do regular F-150s in my town.
Jeez, really?
Yeah.
I'm starting to see quite a few in Quebec, but I cannot say more than F-150 because the F-150 is quite popular too. On January 6th. So from November 18th to January 6th, there's not going to be any production. To be fair, there was already a planned holiday break during that time, so it's not like it's less than 2 months of a break. But it's not ideal still. A lot of the workers have been transferred to another plant to build the Bronco and the Ranger in Michigan, and another 700. So there's 2,100 workers working on this particular assembly, and 700 were transferred to the other plant for Bronco and Ranger. 700 were offered retirement packages. So, and the rest gonna be in temporary furlough, I guess. Yeah, I mean Ford. We've been saying like Ford. They were early. They were the first one to come in with an electric pickup truck, but it wasn't the best offering. Let's be honest. It's still a lot based on the gasoline version, and Ford has been teasing already the next generation Lightning, which I think is going to be a big improvement, and also been teasing the PHEV pickup, smaller pickup that they want to do. That's supposed to come next year, I think.
Yeah, so I agree. Like I think Ford chose to come early and not iterate much from the gas one, but I feel like they did a pretty good job. That said, I mean, they still have the best frunk by far of any vehicle. The range is pretty good. I think where they kind of messed up is the trims, the models. Like it's very confusing. I mean, to me, but this is something I do for a living. But I imagine if you go into a Ford dealer and you're like, all right, you can get the Lariat, or you can get, like the what is it, the Flash version?
Yeah, the
Like,
Flash, and then there was another trim too that they released later on that was just above the Flash. That seemed to be the sweet spot. Like that they should
yeah,
have done that since the beginning. But
right.
like if they would have done that at the beginning before, like having the competition from the Silverado, then the Sierra, the Cybertruck, and all that, like at one point it starts hurting. Yeah, I think now they kind of like not giving up on it, but the next generation 2025 is coming relatively soon.
Yeah.
So they're probably just not too excited about what they're doing now. Polestars announced that they are getting access to the Supercharger network. So starting now, you can reach out. So they're doing gradually. All automakers have announced that they are getting onboarded on the Supercharger network with the NACS. And the only thing that's really interesting about that, because they already all announced it, is that availability when. So Polestar now, Volvo now too, I think, and the availability of the adapter, because you need an adapter for now, so that's important. And then the integration inside the vehicle, which is going to be next year in terms of Polestar. But for the NACS, they're doing something a little bit different. So for future Polestar product, we'll adopt NACS and let the standard equipment. Owners of existing Polestar product can order a NACS adapter through their local Polestar service point today, with deliveries planned for mid-November. In addition, Polestar in-car Google Maps will be updated to show the NACS. Okay, that makes sense. So it's a bit weird that you have to order an adapter now in November for it, when like to get access to the charging network, even though there's not much value. Like I feel like the value is like degrading for people. Like I think Ford, GM, Rivian all offered it for free, right?
GM not for free. Not all
GM,
their vehicles.
not all their vehicles. Oh yeah, do we know which one?
I think I know the Lyric you can get it for free, but the Bolt you could not get it for free.
Well, I mean the Bolt. Like
Yeah.
no one want to see a
No,
Bolt
but I
with a
think
supercharger.
yeah. So I think the other big news today, I think Ford announced that they were going to use electrons.
Oh yeah, that's announced.
Oh, yeah, I didn't break the embargo on that, did I?
Yeah,
I thought that was today. Anyway, maybe Electron will start selling those to OEMs.
let me see.
But the fact that, let's make sure that happened. I thought that was today.
Or if it was today, we didn't post it.
Oh, geez. Oh yeah, that was. I guess we missed that.
Okay, but the embargo is not broken.
Yeah, it's out.
Today. Okay, yeah. The Electron thing is interesting. Like, because I assume that other people are having real issues making the adapter. I know that Ford had to recall some of them and send them back, because it doesn't make that much sense for me to now, like, I would assume that a lot of people that want an adapter and access to the supercharger network that with non-Tesla vehicles already have one, already are they already in process of getting one with one of the automakers. That now getting into the business of producing them, just as 2025 is approaching and most people are already adopting NACS in their vehicle next year. A few people are not doing in 2025 model year because it was too late. They went on board a little bit too late into the process of making a 25 model years, and they couldn't get the connector in time. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be big business for Electron for maybe it's going to be big business for like 6 months or so.
Well, I mean, if they can make them, it doesn't sound like Tesla's meeting demand
Yeah.
and theirs. So if they can make them and make them less expensive and they have product, maybe they can sell them for $100 instead of 300.
Mm-hmm.
They could probably do fine.
Yeah, they're not cheap. Like it's $230, I think. So.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Polestar 2, they announced that they are delivering their first US-made Polestar 3. So this is a big step for the Swedish/Chinese company. Well, they've been making their cars in China, and now with the tariffs, with the access to the tax credit being limited to US-made vehicles, they had to adapt, and they built the factory in South Carolina rather quickly. It's impressive. And we announced like a few weeks ago the first vehicle were coming off the line, and now they are officially starting deliveries for the Polestar 3, which starts at basically $75,000 for 315 miles of range, and then it goes up to 86,000 with the more performance package. But everything is dual motor. Everything comes with the Pilot pack, and you have the Pilot Plus too. I need to get into a Polestar too. I've never test driven one.
They're very similar to the Volvos.
Yeah. All right, bad news from the Volkswagen group. VW is warning that they're going to have to do some mass layoff, something that they actually had swear not to do with their working console. I didn't know this, they had a pledge. They had a pledge with VW employee that would prevent layoff through 2029. You have to be very confident in your business to do that. Like, we're not. And by the way, that was since I think the late 90s. Yeah, 3 decade old pledge to not fire anyone. That's wild. So Bloom kind of gave a warning to employees. Bloom is the CEO of Volkswagen. Oliver Bloom, who was the CEO of Porsche before, that they're gonna have to break that pledge. Basically, he says sorry, and they're gonna close some factories. We already reported on the Audi factories in Belgium that is in the process. In Brussels. That's where they produce the Q8 e-tron, which Audi is the Q8 e-tron, because it's European made. It's not getting the same love from the tax credit in the US, and that's where they would sell it, because the Q8 is a big SUV, and the US market is very big for Audi because they make like bigger vehicles. They're not that popular in Europe for this specific segment. Audi's popular in Europe with their sedans and their wagon, the Event that they call it, but not the big SUVs. So it's not just the EV transition that is hitting them. Like, obviously this particular plant in Brussels is making electric vehicles, but they're just, especially the Chinese market. So the Chinese market was very important for Volkswagen. They were one of the foreign automakers doing very well there, but it's been degraded over the last few years to the point that I think, they've been down 10% year over year this year. So that's not good at all for an automaker, because China is the biggest auto market by far now. In the North America, they're up 7%, so that's good. South America, they're up 15%, and then Western Europe, they are down 1%. Western Europe, I guess that's most of Europe, most of the car sales anyway. So -1%. So it's not China is really the difference maker by far. If you look at the numbers, like that's the problem. The problem is, in short, Volkswagen was very reliant on the Chinese market, and the Chinese EV automakers have surged so much domestically in China that they are putting pressure on everyone else. Simple as that. Really, that's where you have to give some kudos to Tesla, because Tesla is still doing fairly well in China despite the incredible surge of EV startups and bigger players too, like Geely, like BYD and the big ones, the big boys.
Yeah, it's partially due to their like just cost cutting efficiency, like making one model. They don't, you know, there's very few cars that they make.
Yeah, it's
Model Y.
Model Y is everything for them.
Yeah.
Like, they're making Model 3s in China too, but Model Y is everything. All right, before we jump into the comment section, a quick note about Aptera. You know, we really like Aptera. We really want them to succeed, even though things are not looking great exactly. But they have a very cool product that is very aligned with the ethos of Electrek, which is efficiency and, you know, making the transport industry more efficient, more sustainable. And they are trying to make the most efficient electric car ever in their SCV solar car, they call it. And there was a significant milestone achieved this week. So they have this production intent vehicle that they have, the PI2. And it doesn't look production intent in this. Like, it looks like there's a few pieces missing. So, but they completed their first low speed test with it. So they have this car actually driving it. I don't know if we put, yeah. They have this car actually driving around for the first time here if you're watching on YouTube. And it's pretty cool. Like, it's a step towards the right direction, but they are in the middle of trying to raise $60 million to get the vehicle to production, and they're still not there yet. They haven't closed the round, so they're gonna need some people to subscribe to that financing round if they want this thing to happen. Otherwise, kind of dead on arrival kind of project, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I did have a chance to stop by the factory when I was out in California in September. And, you know, like, there's certainly things happening there, but it wasn't like,
Buzzing.
it didn't feel like, you know, it's not buzzing. There was not a lot of people there. They had a couple social media people and a lot of empty space. And it feels like if they had money and, you know, like an unlimited budget or something, they would be moving much faster. But it seems like they kind of have a skeleton crew, you know, doing, you know, obviously they're making progress, but just not quick progress. And obviously we're still, you know, we haven't made that much progress in the last few years, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's very capital extensive market. You need a lot of money to make it work, and you know, to bring a car. And the only thing that I've been really hyped about Aptera is the fact that it's not actually a car. It's classified in a different category of auto car, I think, motor car or something like that.
Yeah, and each state has kind of a different thing.
Yeah.
Like some states that you have to wear a helmet with those things.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
but it does limit. There's a lot of states you don't have to wear an helmet too, but the
Right.
main thing is, like, there's a lot fewer regulations about this, which make it easier to bring it to market, but not easy either. It's still an on-road vehicle. Everything that it's on-road has a lot of regulations. Yeah, I thought that would help them, and I'm sure it is helping them, but apparently not enough to attract $60 million in investment. All right, let's jump into the comment section. I think a lot of people.
All right. Speculawyer says, did Tesla give out a second round of free FSD trials? I have FSD again, but I haven't bought it.
Yep. Yeah, they did. They've been doing it more regularly now, and I would expect them to keep doing it fairly regularly. Try to get more people to pay that $8,000.
All right. Jason K says, can you ask Ford when they will fix the 120 volt charging? My Lightning will not charge at 16 amps on a 20 amp circuit.
And you're using their mobile charger, the charging connector, or what? Because sometimes it's a connector issue, like it's not validated on a specific connector. But
He also says on a 30 amp TT plug, my Lightning should charge at 24 amps, but it only charges at 12. That's interesting. That's like that thing that they use for RVs. It's a
Yeah,
weird high amperage, low, relatively low voltage.
you can
Huh.
look it up. We can check. We can investigate a little bit for you
Yep.
guys.
All right. I speculate Tesla should just give FSD for free to all their cars. It will never be more than level 2 autonomous with the V3 hardware.
Well, I mean, that's not a resolution.
Yeah,
Contrary,
that
they
doesn't.
should reimburse everyone that bought FSD on Hardware 3. Apparently, that's not the plan. Apparently, they are still figuring out if they can make it work because, the idea that if you optimize the system enough, then you can maybe make it fit in hardware 3 and make it fit enough to still, add redundant nodes. Like, it's no one believes that.
All right. Cyber says, do you think that Tesla will stop offering the ability to buy FSD on hardware 3 cars since Elon's commitment to replace the
No,
hardware?
never. So yeah, where I stop is like the idea of like, okay, if we ever figure out we cannot deliver it on hardware 3 because we haven't figured it out yet, we will offer a retrofit, which it's so like a lot of people, a lot of especially Tesla fans were like, all right, case closed, hardware 3 is all okay now. Elon says that if they figure out they can, they will offer a retrofit, but it's the timeline that's important, people. Like, it took them 2 years to figure out hardware 2.5, couldn't do it. We're still 5 years into hardware 3, and they're not sure anymore. They were sure at the beginning, now they're not sure. And we don't know when they were actually like admit defeat on hardware 3. And when they actually do admit defeat, or unless they are doing it at the same time, which I hope they are doing, they're gonna have to develop a new computer that works, that is retrofittable for hardware 3, because the hardware 4 computer that Tesla is delivering in millions of vehicles right now is not retrofittable into hardware 3 cars. It has different power harnesses, different camera harnesses, and a different form factor. All these things need to be fixed in order to do it. So they're gonna have to develop that thing, they're gonna have to produce it, they're gonna have to retrofit it in millions of vehicles, depending. Like, some people say that, oh, you just need to do it with people with FSD. I think courts are gonna see it differently, but anyway.
All right. Would it be easier to reach a higher kilometer per intervention if Tesla would sell its FSD cheaper? It's 11,000 and we can barely use it in the wintertime. GM is selling this for 3,000. It would
Well, I
help
think you're
them.
confusing a lot of things here,
Yeah.
Petrus. Like, I don't think that more people using it would increase kilometers between intervention. I don't think that's a limiting factor. It would bring in more data, but Tesla still needs to improve the system. It's based on the improvement. And GM is not selling an equivalent systems. GM is selling a software, a geofence system that works just on highways. It's completely different.
All right. Hearing discussion about drivers letting FSD errors play out makes me angry. Who gave Elon the right to make us all less safe? Following a Tesla is dangerous because of phantom braking. Yep.
Fair, very fair.
All right. Ron Weeb, question. I noticed in Tesla's Cybercab video, the person sleeping didn't have a reclined seat. Do Cybercab seats not recline? Was this a design choice? Would seem to me that would be a main selling point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a ride-hailing kind of aim at the ride-hailing market first, so it's not, the reclining thing is not that important. I mean, I assume you mean like a flat, like a reclined flat, so they can go to sleep. And then Elon did say that he plans to sell that thing to consumers, and so there's this idea that I could, get into my car in New York, like have a cyber cab, and like tell it to drive it to LA and just fall asleep and like wake up in Wisconsin or whatever. You don't have to go through Wisconsin to go to LA from there, but anyway, you know what I mean.
It's somewhere in
So
the middle.
yeah, somewhere in the middle. So, but yeah, who cares? Cyber cab is a ridiculous product anyway. Like, it's not like it doesn't have a steering wheel, and Tesla doesn't have a way to drive the car without a steering wheel right now. So until that happens, it's just a purely for show product. It was like trying to boost the stock kind of pump, in my opinion, and it didn't even work. So
Also, if it was, the cab for, short-term driving things, like you're not going to fall asleep in 15 minutes. Like,
yeah,
so I don't think that's really the use case.
yeah. But he's saying that in the video they did show that sleeping, so that's the goal of it. And I think Ryan thought that they didn't look comfortable the way they were sleeping, I would assume.
All right. Speculawyer says ground-mounted batteries are going to be great in a flood. I prefer my Enphase mounted 4 feet off the ground. I think that was the Tesla video.
Yeah, man, you have the option to do that with the Powerwall 3 also. It's just some people don't need that if there's no flooding risk in your area. So
Yep. Electricians bid the job and aren't interested in passing on quicker installation timing costs to customers. Tesla is overplaying this as customer savings.
yeah, I mean, not everyone, and also there is a direct customer savings in the cost of the inspection unit, which is $1,000 cheaper than a regular Powerwall. So let's be fair here.
All right. If EV startups are so hard to make profitable and VW is struggling for survival, does it make sense for them to continue to try to spin up a completely forgotten Scout brand?
No, I mean, the Scout brand is for new products that is inspired by the old Scott brand, Scout.
Scout.
Yeah, but so they are they want to make these products, which I think have a place in the market, and it makes sense to use that brand because it is the vehicles are inspired by that era and by the capabilities of those vehicles. So yeah, if they have a place in the market and if they can make it profitably, then why not? Like,
All right. EV truck market is getting more crowded and is softening. Witness Ford Lightning slowdown. It's a good point. Lightning, it's getting crowded, and Cybertruck is ramping up. But they also have that SUV as well. So, question: have you seen any EV pickups proposed that have long beds and aren't two-row seating? I don't think so.
no, nothing really.
I mean, that the Ram had three-row seating, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, everything is full cab right now. Yeah.
All right. 30 for an adapter so you can be charged high DC fast charging rates that ultimately make Elon richer and help elect Trump. No thanks.
Well, I mean that would be a quick loop.
Yeah.
That would be a very quick loop.
Which car manufacturers do you think will be dominating, doing well in 5 years? Obviously, Tesla's doing okay right now.
Yeah, I mean globally, you have to give it to like companies like BYD though. Like they're selling
Right.
like 500,000 vehicles per quarter. They're getting close to that per month now. Like it's kind of wild. And sure, there are a lot of PHEVs there in that, but I think they're gonna their PHEVs are at least not bad. They're not like old Prius Primes or something. Sorry, or something. So it's yeah, I think there's value in that. I think Tesla, unless Elon completely destroys it, I think Tesla is still gonna do well. It all depends on next year, I think, for Tesla. I think if Tesla does well with the new vehicles based on Model 3, Model Y, and doesn't cannibalize itself too much with it, and actually grows like 20-30%, as Elon said, and then I think their EV business is still gonna do very well. I think FSD is gonna hurt them. I think there's gonna be a lot of lawsuits next year with Hardware 3, with Elon's like resource tunneling stuff and everything. That's gonna hurt Tesla. But but if Elon doesn't do too much damage, doesn't drain the talent too much at Tesla, and Tesla is able to like get some strong leadership back in at the EV level, because now all the top leadership basically is becoming like humanoid robots and FSD. I think Tesla will also be a dominant force in the car market still.
From legacy makers, thoughts on like Hyundai, Kia?
Fair. Yeah, we tend to forget the Koreans a little bit, but they are doing some cool stuff, and their vehicles are very good. I don't know how they're doing money wise on them. I don't know if they are being profitable on it. If they are, it would be impressive.
All right, let's move on. Keep hearing analysts state that cell prices are down to $60 per kilowatt hour and extrapolating to radically lower cost to build EVs. Have any car manufacturers acknowledged lower pack costs yet?
I mean, yeah, but like you said, $60 per kilowatt hour. That's at the cell level, and that's LFP cells. That's true. I've heard that too. I've heard, it's not exactly clear, but there's rumors out there that some automakers are buying cells at $60 per kilowatt hour, which enables those cheap Chinese EVs also. At the pack level, yeah, I mean the pack prices are going down also because of that. Because also like lithium prices are at 90% below what they were in 2020, 2022, or whenever was the high, 2021, 2022. Nickel prices are super down, even though there's not that much nickel in the vehicle. Um, yeah, so yeah, that is lowering the pack prices. It's pretty obvious.
All right. So we're talking about, let's see, what do you guys think will be the long-term winning hardware suite for self-driving cars? I guess maybe specifically LiDAR or no LiDAR.
Yeah.
What do you think?
You know, I'm actually on Tesla's side on this. I think vision can work. I'm fairly confident it can work just because the only other thing that can fully drive a vehicle right now is human beings. If you don't account for like the Waymo stuff and everything, because it is still geofence limited on mapping, but everything. But like a true self-driving system that can go anywhere, I think would have to be just a very strong vision-based system. But where I differ from Tesla is that I am aware that we don't know how much computing power is going to be required to run the system, because it would require us to know like exactly how much of our brain compute power we use when we drive, and what's the equivalent of that in an actual like machine compute power. And we don't know that, so we won't actually know until we solve it. And I think Tesla is going to solve it at some point, but it might be at this point. It might be like the AI 7 computer that they're doing. I don't know. So
Yeah, so maybe I disagree a little bit. I think that self-driving has to be better than humans to sell. Like, if it's just as good as humans, I feel like people are going to be like a little wishy-washy on it because it's going to be better in some ways, worse in some ways. So I think if LiDAR prices keep coming down, I mean, I know Waymo's hardware suite costs, like almost $100,000. Like, it's
mhm.
just crazy. So I don't think that's the answer, but I feel like adding superhuman sensors to these things will make them, like, people will say, oh, like you can see two cars ahead of you, or you can see around the truck, or those kind of things. That's going to sell full self-driving better than, hey, it's pretty much as good as a human.
Mhm.
So I kind of feel like the end game is going to have some superhuman sensors.
But I do think you can still get superhuman with just cameras and compute power, because you can get cameras all around the vehicle, so you get a better
That's
view
right.
around, and also the compute power doesn't get tired like human does. It's has quicker reaction times than human does. It
Doesn't get
drunk and doesn't get doesn't look at its phone. These just so there's a lot of value I think in it too.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean if you can work lidar correctly in it, uh, I think it makes sense. Like I don't like Elon's argument for it that it's a crutch and everything like that. Like I don't like it's not a crutch. It's more like you know an advantage. Like,
Right.
a crutch means that you lean on it. Like this is just like a it's more like what's that, the guy that killed his wife, like the Paralympic guy that
Oh,
had
Blade Runner guy.
the feet, like it's like they're better than feet.
Oscar
Yeah,
Pisker.
Oscar Pistorius. I think that's it. And it's more like that. Like he's superhuman feet. Like
Right. They're better than human.
yeah,
Um, whatever happened to that guy? Is he in jail?
I would assume so. I would hope so.
Yeah. Wonder if he gets to keep his blades in there. Anyway, let's move on. Do you think supercharging transfer will come back next quarter? I would say likely.
Yeah, or at least for hardware three people, I think we might see a shift towards that at one point. It might just like shift, but just for hardware three people. Like if you have a hardware four car and you're upgrading to an hardware four car, buy FSD again, you peasant.
Yeah, plebs.
Yeah.
So I'm actually in a situation,
Well, you were thinking about it
yeah.
last
So I'm
episode.
really thinking about it now.
Mm.
I just want to upgrade my Model Y to a new Model Y, um, hardware 4. I'm gonna do the thing that Tesla wants me to do.
Mm-hmm.
But when is the best time for me? Because I have time. Basically, I want a car to drive to Vermont. Going to put,
Mm.
snow tires on it, all-wheel drive Model Y. Should I wait for prices to come down and like I don't care about the full self. Sorry, I don't care about the supercharging transfer, but I do care about the full self-driving transfer. Obviously, that's going to come along.
I don't know how much the prices will come down. Like, like especially if Tesla launched the Juniper early next year.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Juniper's
Yeah.
coming.
So I think Tesla's gonna rely on the excitement of the Juniper more than price cuts. I probably think that like Q4 is gonna be the lowest price for a while for Model Y at least.
But I would imagine that because everybody knows that the new Model Y is coming, that demand's going to go down. So
It
they're going to
might
have
it
to.
might go down further this quarter by
Right.
the like next month or something like that. Like that I agree. I'm thinking about it too, and and it's almost purely for the job, like because like I'm not gonna get FSD updates anymore like as fast as hardware 4 cars. I'm not gonna be up to date and everything, so I feel like I need an hardware 4 car now. Like it's
Yeah.
and yeah, I should say like because some people reached out to me after I talked about my Model 3 cars, and last week we talked about Tesla trying to make more money on service, and and I got an alert on my car that my front passenger seat sensor was not sensor restraint system had an issue and needed service. So I reached out to Tesla through the app. I sent them the error code. I'm like, all right, give me service. And then Tesla comes back to me, bring the car in on Tuesday, and send me an estimate that says that they're going to replace the restraint system and then they're going to replace the airbag, and it's going to cost me $1,800 total. So I'm like, I didn't accept the estimate because I wanted someone to actually look at my car first and tell me what's happening, because I'm not going to just pay $800 for that. So I went on Tuesday, and what they said is like, yeah, because before going I also checked online what people that are getting this error message had done on their car, and there was a few different things, like of course because it's not always the same thing, but most of them were saying it was a 10-minute thing with a mobile tech come in because either the cable of the restraining system was being pinched, or the sensor failed. Like these were the most common things. So they either replace the sensor, replace the cable, unpinched it, whatever. So I thought, yeah, it's gonna be an easy thing. There's no way it's gonna cost me $1,800 and a airbag replacement. So I go there, and the guy is telling me like, yeah, I mean that's the most common the common estimate that for this error message. So it's generated automatically. You don't have to accept it. We'll look at the car. I'm like, yeah, makes more sense. An hour later, I stay there. I was working from there. Hour later, comes to ask me, is like, all right, we find the problem. Then that's where things got a little bit weird. He's like, yeah, I mean, this is a common issue with the restraint on the front passenger seat. It breaks. So there was, and then the guy said there was a recall on it at some point. And as soon as I said that, my eyes popped up. I'm like, okay, there was, and there wasn't anymore. Like, was it on my car? Or was it on 2018 Model 3? And then the guy gets flustered. Like, he's like, and then they bring in another guy. And then the other guy kind of shuts down the recall thing that the other guy says. And I looked online and I saw a few things, but not for my Model 3. Anyway, and then what he tells me is that he tells me that they have a somewhat frequent issue with that restraint system on the Model 3, that it fails quite often. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, that sounds like a defect. But anyway, it's like, so Tesla redesigned it with a new one, a new system that's better. Cost $500, something like that, $400, I think, Canadian. So he says we can replace it with that. But if we do replace it with that, this new system that we designed to be better than the other one is not compatible with your airbag. So we need to replace your airbag too, and that was $1,200, the airbag itself. So I'm like, no, that sounds like a you problem. Like,
Yeah.
but they're like, yeah, well, yeah. They go, yeah. If with people, we can bring it down to $175 because of that. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Like now we went down from $1,800 to $600. So I'm like, okay, let's do it like that. But I think that a lot of people just don't look at this thing and just accept the estimate, and like Tesla charged them $1,800 for this whole thing. At the end of the day, they didn't even charge me the $175. They just charged me the replacement of the system, which also was like I'm not gonna say thank you Tesla for that, because it sounds like there was a defect with their own system too. It's a 2018 car. Things break, I understand, but they replaced the restraint system underneath. It's basically a sensor to detect like who's on, if someone's on it, and like how heavy they are, and all that, and then the airbag so that it actually works if if something happens. So yeah, that's the update on the Model 3. I'm $600 less rich because of it. Oh, but no, that's not true though. I was able to use my credit, my Tesla credit, so
Nice.
that helped.
All right. Will enhanced autopilot ever get to a higher level of functionality, or is this the final product? I think it's the final product. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna spend that much time on it now that the FSD is just around the corner.
When will Tesla add non-Tesla level 2 chargers into its navigation? I recently rented a Tesla and was surprised I had to use PlugShare to find parking garage charging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a lot. Like if you have a destination charge and all that, like I think it would be but it is useful if you do have the adapter with you. Uh, and I guess now there's gonna be non-Tesla charger that have NACs.
Right.
So yeah, it might be time to do it. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to have a new menu item just because it would be, you'd just be driving and they'd be everywhere. But Rivian does that. They have level 2 from other people, and a lot of other brands. Bike Angela says Scout is not forgotten. It is a very popular brand. And then, of course, Carl's in San Diego says if Scout is a very popular brand, so is DeSoto, AMC, and Studebaker. No one will go out of their way thinking some old heritage of mediocrity will make a new vehicle good. Right.
Carl is a harsh one.
Yeah, Scout is a nostalgic thing.
Yeah.
My grandfather used to have one of those. I'm totally into this thing based on the brand alone. Like Volkswagen's not bringing anything to the table yet, but I'm super into it.
But also, you're not always wrong too, Carl, because obviously it's not a very popular brand either. Like it's just somewhere in the middle, I guess.
All right, so let's move on. In future car reviews, please test the higher amp 120 volt. Okay, we're still on the F150 charging. Survey 100 people on the street about Scout. Okay, 100 people answered, never heard of it. Well, not if it's me. All right, Anton Gran has some good advice. I think we're waiting for the refresh Model Y is the move. I think you're right, but I don't know if I have time to wait for it because it's going to be a line to get it. And,
Also, what would you really want out of the? I mean, there's gonna be obviously like there was maybe a 10% efficiency bump or so with the island. Maybe I don't know if it's gonna be that much with the Model Y because Model Y is more recent. There was like probably less opportunities to upgrade. There's gonna be some for sure. So there's gonna be a little bit of efficiency bump, but nothing major. Not that like the Model Y right now is not already like a very efficient and good car in terms of range and everything. So like the design update, the light bar in the back, the light bar in the front, the ambient light inside, the rear screen maybe that would make a big difference. I don't know, like when you maybe all of these things adding up together is more interesting. The lack of stock, probably not gonna have any stocks. You love your stocks.
I love my stocks.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like genuinely hoping that there's some crazy price discounts.
Yeah,
on
and then
the,
you're
on
gonna
the
jump
current
on
one.
that. Maybe that's your plan. If there's a big discount next month, you jump on it. If not, you wait for the Juniper.
Right.
And then you can make a full review of the Juniper for us.
There we go.
All right, that's the plan, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening to the Electrek podcast this week. If you did enjoy the show, please give us a like, a subscribe. All these things help the show a ton. They take a second and they're free to do, and we appreciate when you do it. We're going to see you same time, same place next week. Be safe. See ya.